Welcome to the village. Okay, so today my guest co-host is Mary. She's a family medicine physician. We're going to talk about something interesting that Mary brought up, which she'll probably be talking to you guys about at some point too, hopefully, on your own podcast, right?
Yes.
Hello. And the topic is culinary medicine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That sounds very important and interesting. What's that about? What got you into it? Do you practice it? How do you practice it? And what does it mean?
Yeah, so culinary medicine is an evidence-based sort of specialty that I got interested in during residency. And actually, Tulane University School of Medicine was the first medical school in the United States that had a teaching kitchen. And so I trained at Tulane for my family medicine residency and took the course for culinary medicine after I graduated residency. And really, I did it honestly because one, I wanted to learn for myself how to cook better, how to eat better as a person and not just like as a physician. And I also was inspired by my patients because when I was in residency, I had a lot of patients who had diabetes, high cholesterol, and they would go talk to the nutritionist and then would come back to me and essentially say, well, I saw the nutritionist, but I felt like it didn't really help me. I felt like I already knew a lot of the things that the nutritionist told me. I know what I need to eat and I know what I shouldn't eat. Yeah, so my patients, inspired me to learn more about how to cook so that I could teach them essentially like how to live better, healthier lifestyles based on their chronic, medical conditions, right? So culinary medicine really evidence-based. We take different disease processes, different conditions, and sort of cater it individually to each person. So if somebody has diabetes or if they have pre-diabetes, we teach them about how to substitute food and then like how to shop for food and how to use their cooking tools at home, like what they have, and how to meal plan for their families if they have families. Sort of takes like what we know in medicine, what's evidence-based as far as like nutrition and health, and then we take it to a different level. We take them to the grocery store, like do like a tour with my patients where I take them to the grocery store.
So you're actually one-on-one with your patients.
Yeah.
Like physically with them, helping them purchase food.
Yeah, so I do like an introduction to the grocery store and label reading and then introducing them to substitutes of what they normally would eat. For example, milk, introducing them to different types of milk, like plant-based milk that maybe they've never heard of before or were scared to try. And then like different breads or like different grains and spices that they've never heard of before to incorporate into recipes. And it's also very culturally driven because food is essential to all of us, right? And I feel like in every culture, everything is based around eating.
Yeah.
Right? When you think of family and getting together, you essentially think of food. And I think that's sort of what drives a lot of people when they think of food is like what they grew up eating and like where they're from. And we don't take that away from them. I think that's the difference in culinary medicine and nutrition is that in culinary medicine, we take that into consideration a lot, what they're used to eating at home. How do we take your grandmother's, for example, arroz con pollo and make that into like a healthier arroz con pollo that still tastes exactly the same like grandma made it and how you're used to it.
Yeah.
And the smells and the flavors and the textures, but essentially it's nutritionally more dense and it's healthier for you. So that's what we teach in culinary medicine. We teach you to take those flavors and those textures, but just like in a different way that you've probably never been taught to.
So like lifestyle change.
Yeah.
That work for you.
That work for you, that's catered to you and not just generalized, here's what you can't eat, here's what you shouldn't eat, and then like you don't know where to go from there. You're not given specifics. There's people who want like specific recipes.
Yeah.
There's people who don't want specific recipes, but they want to learn how to like maybe cook a different vegetable that they've never learned how to eat or cook before, like bok choy. Let's say like a lot of people have never heard of bok choy or
Yeah.
you don't know other, like kale. Kale was very huge years ago. It was like the in thing to eat was kale, right? And a lot of my
Yeah.
patients were like, I don't even know how to eat that.
Right.
Like,
Like
what
it's
do I do
coming
with
back.
it?
Now it's like a fancy, superfood that people talk about these things like they're new, but they've been around
Right.
for a long time. But that's true. As physicians, we'll throw this stuff at people. Oh, your cholesterol's high. You need to change your diet. You need to eat this or not eat this. But you need to give them tools how to do that and motivate them, because people aren't just going to go out and do these things on their own. How big of a branch is culinary medicine? How many doctors do it? Where can people who are interested find a doctor like this, and who's eligible really? Like, would insurance cover it? Is it hard to get into for people?
I mean, it's really up and coming. I think culinary medicine is going to be the future for all of primary care, whether it's pediatrics, family medicine, OBGYN, psychiatry, because nutrition is such a huge part of medicine now. Like, we know that there's a huge crisis with obesity, especially now with kids and diabetes.
And cancer and toxins and people want to detox. People don't know what that means. And they don't even realize, like you said, that they're doing things that hurt their body until blood work comes back or weight checks come in or they start feeling a certain way.
Yeah, and, especially with COVID this year, I think that having that knowledge as physicians, as primary care doctors, of how to educate your patients during a pandemic like this. How are they eating at home? What are they feeding their kids during the lockdown? I think that became a huge issue, especially with people who have food insecurity, like our older patients who couldn't go outside, couldn't get groceries, couldn't get access to food. And now they're coming back to see their doctors and, their numbers are all over the place, their cholesterol, their sugar. So this is likely going to be integrated into a lot of residency teaching programs in the future, because right now across the United States, there's more than I want to say maybe more than 50 medical school programs that have integrated the culinary medicine curriculum into medical
really
school.
Great. Yeah,
and then important. Several primary care residency programs, even psychiatry residency programs, some of them have it across the US. And Harvard was one of the first universities had a teaching kitchen, healthy eating. And then culinary medicine came out a few years ago in Tulane, which they incorporated the very first teaching kitchen. So medical students there from first year of medical school were in the kitchen cooking with patients. They were being taught by registered dietitians who are also actual chefs. So that's what's unique about culinary medicine is it takes medical doctors, internal medicine, family medicine doctors who do this course, and they teach with actual cooks. So you're learning culinary skills. So it's not just teaching nutrition, like macro or micronutrients. It's actually learning chef and skills, like cutting, basic things.
Skills, exactly.
Like knife skills, which pans to use, what temperature, and using ingredients together. So you're learning what chefs essentially learn in culinary school, but obviously more intense because it's a shorter course. So how do you find a doctor like this? You can really they have a culinary medicine website, CCMS, which is where I did my course through the Goldring Institute of Culinary Medicine through Tulane. And if you're lucky enough, to have a primary care doctor like me who did the course and completed it.
So you have to figure out from that website, or even maybe a Google search, if there's culinary medicine providers near where you live.
Yeah.
And then I guess with insurance, it really depends on what they cover.
It's covered. So how I practice culinary medicine is I see my patients like how I would normally see my primary care patients, and I offer them that additional skill that I have. So what happens is they then make an appointment for a culinary medicine consult with me, and it's just like seeing me for primary care. So if they're already a patient of ours, they're getting billed as if they're just seeing me for primary care essentially. So instead of us talking about their labs, we're sitting down, we're talking about the food that they're eating.
Yeah.
We're doing like food diaries. We're looking at their pantry. So like now during the pandemic, I have video visits of patients at home, which I find is actually easier because now I'm actually getting to look into their house on video, and they're showing me their pantries and they're showing me the labels on video, which is like really cool because I can't go to everybody's house when I do this. So this is actually better for me because they're showing me around their kitchen and they're like, oh, this is the wok that I have. Like, this is my rice cooker. And it's actually more fun because then we actually get to do like an actual cooking demo together on video, as opposed to like being in the office and we're just like talking one-on-one like this. It's actually, COVID has made it easier for us to practice culinary medicine because of the video telehealth situation.
That's true. Telehealth actually has opened up this whole world that it's important because, traditionally you think of doctors and the old school doctors. If they do like a quick visit with their patients, they talk about diabetes and blood pressure and asthma and all of this. And with primary care, whether it be everybody, you see all age groups, and I see children, it's the whole person. And like we were talking about earlier, they look at you as their go-to for everything. And, mental health and children with their school problems and bullies and so many transitions. And that's a really important part of your medical health is your nutritional health. That's where it all comes from. And like you said, psychiatrists, that's a huge thing because what you eat directly affects your mood and your energy level and your sleep, which affects your physical and mental health. So that's really great. I thought that was interesting that you had this training and that this is an interest of yours because I try to teach children from the get-go about their lifestyle, and children don't understand. They don't even know they're eating badly. They're just eating what's at home. So I've told so many parents like, oh, he only eats cookies and he won't like, wait, why did you buy them?
Yeah.
Don't buy the candy and expect the kid not to eat it. That's cruel. So, with children, trying to explain to them what it means and what their future means if they were to eat unhealthy and teach them about, just scare them a little because what they eat is really important, and you notice you feel better when you eat healthier. So with that kind of healthy eating, do you just kind of incorporate one thing at a time or do you give them lists to look at or websites to look at?
So it's sort of like this guided process when you come to see me for culinary medicine. It also there has to be a sort of like a mutual goal also for me and the patient. So I don't just like offer it to everybody because, obviously there has to be motivation on the patient's part also to want to change their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I sort of bring up culinary medicine and not force it on people. And I sort of gauge, is this the type of person that's going to benefit from this, right? Because we could spend multiple visits on, healthy eating and cooking, and that takes a lot of time and effort on both of our ends. And so first, we have to acknowledge, like, is this something that this patient really wants to do? Because it is something that doesn't happen overnight. So, the patients that do it with me are the ones that are like highly motivated. They've really made a choice that they want to change their health through food and seeing food as medicine, right? So this is not for everybody. Just like seeing a nutritionist is not for everyone. And, it might not work. So this has to be a relationship between my patient and I, that we're in this understanding that if we're going to go through with this is going to be, they're going to stay committed. They're going to stay committed because we want to have a goal. And so essentially, I asked them during the first visit to do like a 24-hour recall where they sort of go over with me with no judgments. And I always kind of just say, upfront, I don't want you to hide things from me. Like, don't tell me that you didn't eat the potato chips in the middle of the night.
Right.
I'm here to help you.
So you're not there to judge them.
Right.
You're there to help them.
Right.
And
so
that's in essence why you go to your doctor. People feel embarrassed but your doctor should be somebody that you can rely on to just help you, and you should have a good trusting relationship. And you feel like you can't trust that doctor, then you should go to a different doctor you can trust.
Yeah.
That's really important.
And that's the first thing I always kind of say. I put it out there. This is like the no judgment zone completely. Like, I'm not going to judge you because you ate Taco Bell 2 nights in a row.
Right.
I'm here to sort of like also be like your coach to kind of help you and not say that's bad, because sometimes I feel like we do that. I feel like
a couple nights in a row.
I feel like we do that though, like sometimes, or even
Yeah.
nutritionists will sometimes sort of say that's not good, that's bad. And, just like with anything in life, when you're trying to motivate someone to do something, you don't want to have judgment, and you never want to say this is for weight loss too. You don't want to talk about weight. So I avoid,
Right, yeah.
I avoid like that conversation period, just so that people know culinary medicine is not about weight loss.
Yeah,
This is about
it's not about
us
weight.
understanding food, learning about food, and learning like your relationship with food and how can we help you get your life better, and how can we prevent disease from getting worse or prevent it, period, right? And so we do the 24-hour recall, and then we sort of talk about 3 goals. Like, what are our goals? Why are we doing this in the first place? Why are you and I having this conversation about food, right? What's important to you? Like, is it 1, to get your diabetes number down, your A1C, you want to bring it down to this number? 2, do you want to learn about different types of vegetables? Like, it has to be really specific. I don't want it to just be like, I just want to be healthy in general, because I feel like sometimes that's where people get stuck. They're just like, I just want to be healthy. I just want to like lose weight and be a better person. And then you don't have specific tangible goals. And sometimes that doesn't work for certain people, because they'll just do it for a week or 2 and then like fall off of that.
You have to have an end goal or a lifestyle goal.
Yeah, and it like doesn't become a habit. So I kind of talk also about, this is not just learning this now, but you're going to carry this on for the rest of your life. You're going to use these skills to form habits that are better than the habits that you have now, right? And how can we keep you at that stage, at that healthy stage in your life? So we do the 3 goals, and then we sort of end with, let's do a food diary for like a week, and then we'll go over it. And then we do it like symptoms. How did you feel when you ate Taco Bell? Did you wake up the next day with a headache? Did you feel like you were swollen more? Did you feel like you were more moody? And then we like talk about that in the next visit. After that, we go through label reading, and then specifically maybe talking about, okay, it looks like you don't eat enough fiber in your diet, and maybe that's why you're constipated all the time. So let's talk about fiber needs. Let's talk about actual needs of somebody with your height and your weight, and you're male or female, like how much fiber you should probably be getting in order for you to actually go to the bathroom like every day and feel okay and not feel, crummy all the time. And we do that one thing at a time. Like, okay, so let's maybe for next week, let's try incorporating something new into your diet. And what's one thing that you've never eaten before for breakfast, let's say. And then they'll say, okay, I've never eaten oatmeal or something, or like chia seeds or something like that. And then if they say that to me, I'm like, okay, can I give you a really simple recipe for like, let's say overnight oats, right? Because most people can get a big thing of oats and it's cheap, and then something new like chia seeds, and then people have milk, right? So we use things that are in your pantry and things that are not expensive, but we incorporate one new thing into like one meal a day and not overwhelm them and say, oh, let's change your dinner and your lunch all together at the same time, and then you get freaked out and you run away.
If you change too much, it's going to fail for anybody.
Right.
Because we're human and big changes are hard, and it's a shock to the system to change something entirely. That's important too that you talked about the expense, because people have an idea that organic food or healthier food is really expensive. You go to like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, when that's not always necessary. There's things you could buy at those places if you needed to, but you don't even have to go there. And it's just more accessible. Like junk food is right at the checkout counter, right? And there's big for sale signs for the giant sodas and all the frozen pizzas and everything junk that's easy. And busy moms and busy career people and busy high schoolers, just anybody, they just want to grab it. You're starving after like a long day of work or school or whatever, and then you're just hungry and you don't think about it. You're not motivated at that moment. Like, I don't care about my diet or my calories or my fiber or anything right now. I just want to eat
Yeah.
and move on to my next task.
Yeah.
So it's psychological too.
Yeah. And I think that's part of this process also when I've gone through this with patients is like also debunking those myths about healthy foods and organic foods, like how healthy foods are one, expensive, and two, they have no flavor and they don't taste good. And people who eat quote unquote healthy always eat the same things and they must hate their lives because they have no flavor in their food. And so that's the thing that I also go over with my patients that no, it's not always just eating lettuce. People who eat healthy, you know, are eating well and they're enjoying their food. It's not like they're punishing themselves.
They feel, too. Like they are happy they did it.
Yeah.
And I always say the more you get into a habit of a certain type of food that you make or that you eat, the more your mind starts to crave that food.
Yeah.
So if you always eat cake, you're going to want cake every day.
Yeah.
If you always eat, let's say, and I go through spurts of being healthy and unhealthy, so I'm not the healthiest person all the time. But I'm saying when I want to be, it's a struggle, but then it starts to work after a few weeks. And then I start craving that green apple in the afternoon that maybe I'll dip in peanut butter or something. And that's what my mind immediately goes to. Oh, it's 2 or 3 o'clock. It's time for me to go get my apple. Like, I don't think that I want my cake. If I haven't had cake in weeks, I think I want my apple because that's what my mind and body are used to.
Yeah.
So it's about switching your mindset.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And it's not easy to switch a mindset, right? But then it works. So then do you start talking to patients about the psychology of it? Or
of course.
It's all psychological?
Yeah. And I think we talk about that from the beginning, you know, about their relationship with food. We talk about like when we go through the food diary, you know, we talk about what happened that day, you know, why that morning they ate like so much, or why was their breakfast filled with so much carbohydrates and like fatty foods. And, you know, as a family doctor, they tell us everything, right? So it's like, they're like, yeah, well, because the night before I had a fight, you know, with somebody. And then like I woke up and I was like emotional. And, you know, I kind of make that okay. And, you know, we don't negate that, like how powerful like emotions are. But then we also talk about the impact of that on your body and why have this attachment for processed, refined sugars when you are feeling a certain way, or, you know, like when things go wrong in your life or something happened that's had an impact on your mood. Talk about why your mind starts to look for potato chips or carbohydrates specifically, like why you want to go to the corner bodega and get a bunch of chips. So I think that's important too, is to recognize that like some people may not even understand. They're not aware of that connection between like the emotions and eating. And so then they start to become aware of their relationship with food and really start to understand why they do that specific behavior every time they're feeling emotional, why they want to eat a tub of Haagen-Dazs, you know. And so then they start to realize when they write down their food diary and how they're feeling, I think that's when it opens their eyes. They're like, oh wow, I really am eating ice cream every time. Like I'm angry because my boss made me upset, or I do it every night when I come home from work and it's stressful. And they just really realize, wow, that's not good for me. And I think that's why the food diary is one of those things that a lot of clinicians don't utilize, and they don't understand that for some patients that opens up their eyes, because they get to touch something that they look at and they're like, oh my God, I just ate that like the other day, you know? And so
looking in depth more, like when you write it down, it becomes more real. And you can keep a track of it and realize it. My Fitness Pal app, I tell patients to use that, like older patients that have phones and apps, and it forces you to write down everything. So you can actually keep a track of what you're eating that day. It breaks it down into the macronutrients and micro, I think if you pay extra or something. Yeah. And it tells you how many calories and the vitamin content, and you can create your own goal on there. If you want to lose weight, gain weight, stay the same weight, and they tell you how many calories to be eating, but they also kind of ding you like, oh, your fiber goal is this much and your protein goal is this much. So it's about the health aspect of it too. And I personally find it helpful in telling me
Yeah.
to keep a track of sugars or iron
Yeah.
or protein, because I'm a person that struggles with protein. Like, I have to push myself and remind myself. And I know it's important and healthy, but you have to remind yourself. And if you're writing it down, that's a great reminder, or else your mind's not going to keep a track of that all day for you when you're busy in your day.
Oh, yeah.
But if you write it down, it's always there. You didn't lose it because it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, you know, once my patients realize that they wrote that on themselves, and then they have better insight into their relationship with food when they look at it and they look back. And, you know, the reactions are sort of like also funny when you know they start looking at it with me, and they're like, oh my God, like they'll literally be like looking at it and they're like, I can't believe, you know, like, and like in the moment reaction of them going back to it, and I'm like, let's read, like, let's see what you ate last week, and they're like, oh no, like they literally, like, it's like people know, but it's like they don't want to know. So I think like doing that exercise with them in the beginning is sort of fun for us, because that person really discovers a lot about themselves that they would have never discovered if they hadn't been told to do this diary for a week and discover themselves. Sometimes we just do things out of autopilot. We're just doing things and we don't realize why we're doing it because we're so busy. Like you're saying that you're on all the time and you don't realize you're walking towards the fast food all the time, or you're gravitating towards this. And then we talk about the psychology behind that. You know, the more processed foods you eat, the more refined sugars. We know, like, there's evidence that shows that that's the reason why you keep going back to it. It's sort of an addiction, like sugar.
An addiction. It's a high.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a dopamine kick that your body has every time.
Yeah, and like people don't know that. So, and that's the thing. And that's why, like you're saying, in the grocery stores, that's how they advertise all these foods that we know are not good for like kids, especially, or even adults. But that's what they, you know, you need to keep your eyes closed when you're trying to check out, because all the candy's there, all the refined sugar's there.
Yeah, they do it on purpose. Yeah. It's done like when you're standing waiting in line.
Right, and they know.
The candy's sitting right there. It's like, oh, I can get 2 Snickers bars for $1 today? That's awesome.
Why not?
Like,
yeah.
And these things are small. A Snickers bar is tiny.
Yeah.
But it's filled with just sugar.
Yeah.
And a little bit of protein. Like, packed with nuts. Like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, but it's not packed with
nuts. Packed with peanuts. I guess that's the thing. Like you said, people don't realize. And when you don't write these things down or look back on it, you're hungry, you ate it, it happened, and you didn't think about it. Why would you think about it again?
Yeah.
And when you don't feel well, you're not really going to first turn to your food and think about that, because that's the thing people don't know. And that's why part of being a good physician who cares about their patient's overall well-being, it's all part of preventative medicine, of teaching so that they can know. That's really important, because why lead them to a problem and then tell them what to do now? The other thing with... Actually, I'll let you finish your thoughts, because I wanted to ask you more about what it entails with the healthy eating. But I'll let you finish your process of what you go through with them.
Yeah, so after the grocery store, like I said, normally before COVID, we would, you know, be together in the grocery store. We would touch the vegetables and, you know, see the different types of breads, and then end up in the spice aisle. And I think that's one of my favorite places in the grocery store, because spices are sort of one of those things that people underutilize, right? And not a lot of people understand that using spices are better than like using salt, right, in your food. And so that's a new discovery for a lot of people, using different spices and sort of mixing things and flavors, and understanding how acidity and different spices, incorporating different vegetables and fruits together, and nuts and grains are actually complementary. So like we go through that complementary foods and understanding protein, like how much protein do you actually need. So we go through the bigger picture of things, and then we start to talk about the culinary aspect, like how can we use one pot to make several meals in a week if you're a busy person, and how can we also buy ingredients that are in your budget, right? So, you know, we talk about finding resources in your community, like here in New York, talking about food pantries for our patients who or food stamps for on WIC, and then finding the community gardens like during, you know, the summer where there's like community gardens that they can get fresh produce. So we also do that. So it's this whole multifactorial thing where I talk about buying foods and then knowing where to get food, and then buying food that's within your budget, learning how to buy it in bulk, things that are great, like legumes. Like I love legumes. And I always kind of tell my patients, like, beans are just the most underutilized, foods out there, because you can buy a pack of dry beans for 99 cents. Mm-hmm. Like even in the corner bodega, you can find beans, right? And you can use that whole pack for 99 cents the whole week and make multiple different meals, like 3 different meals with that. You can literally eat the beans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Beans are all protein,
exactly,
fiber,
and iron, vitamins. Their mind is blown because they've never thought to utilize like one ingredient in many different ways. And that's sort of the culinary aspect of that, is teaching them to see foods different ways and not just be so compartmentalized and think like this is just breakfast food and that's it. Like I cannot possibly eat beans for breakfast, right? Because I'm not used to that. So it's also changing that mindset of what food really is for them. And you'll be really surprised the things that people actually say to me, like what they think they should be eating for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, right? Or like what they actually think is a salad. So it's like, it's a whole discovery, I think, process for the patient and for me, because then it gives me really insight on this person. I'm like, wow, you know, you never sometimes feel like you know your patient that well because you have 15 minutes to see them. And then all you want to talk about is their numbers and like how bad they're doing because their blood pressure is high. And then you have to stop and think this is an actual person that might be going through other things. It might not have access to food.
Because looking into a person's life and understanding their actual situation and trying to help them with their life and not just their lab or their number. They shouldn't be just a number or just a patient chart number or a medical record number. They're human beings. And it takes a great relationship for them to trust you with that and for you to care about them in that way. That's so neat that you actually go to the store with them.
It's actually so eye-opening for me. Like I feel like I've learned so much about my patients when I've gone to the grocery store with them, the oohs and the ahs that I hear. Like, you know, in those moments where you're just like, you think it's like the simplest thing to you, but to them, it's not, because this is like completely new to some of them, not knowing that whole milk has that much fat. And when you show them that, and that's what they're giving their kids, they're like, oh, you know, like it's like the reactions, it's priceless because you never get to see that in the room when you're in clinic for those 15 minutes. And it's really, I feel like doing culinary medicine is more satisfying as a primary care physician because you actually really learn more about your patient because you're talking to them about their life through food, if that makes sense. Like you really get to like know them more than just like, oh, your cholesterol's high. Okay, your blood pressure. Okay, bye.
I think people can really relate to that because like you started out saying that food kind of is part of our whole culture, our world, and you have to eat. Everybody has to eat every day. You can't function if you don't eat. Food insecurity is a huge thing, which is a whole topic for a different day. But even holidays, getting the food together, having guests visit, going out to see friends, you eat. I mean, you and me just ate the whole day in Manhattan. That's all we did. And we're going to keep doing it tomorrow. And that's the most populated places in a city, or the places with the food, because food means so much to us. So it's important to be able to enjoy it, but allow it to be a good part of your life, a healthy, happy part of your life, instead of something that kills you. You eat it to live, not for it to kill you or to make you feel unhealthy or horrible. And just like any high, you come down from a high, right? So too much sugar, too much of anything that gives you that dopamine high. So that's like a really great and important and undervalued part of the health and well-being of people. I wanted to ask you with that, because when you mentioned culinary medicine, prior to us talking about it today, my mind started going to, you had said spices, so I was thinking about turmeric and cumin and even with honey and natural herbal things like herbal teas and other antioxidants. Do you teach them about the value of these different anti-inflammatories that they can get naturally in food?
Yeah, all the time. And it's interesting because it's all over like social media, right? And it's all over the news too, like all these different diets and fads. I get so many questions about, should I be on this particular diet or should I take these supplements? Like, which vitamin should I take? And I'm sure you get that a lot too. Which vitamin should I give my child? Like you said, food, this is what we do. Literally, we've eaten all day and like we've taken pictures of the food we eat, right? So social media has also made it, food is like a huge part of our daily living to the point where we're literally posting pictures of food all over for everyone to see. Hey, this is what I'm eating. And I think that social pressure also to eat, right, has become a problem, and that's why diabetes is getting worse. That's why there's more and more people with diabetes. That's why more and more kids are getting obese, right? Because there's that pressure, also that social pressure to eat. I mean, there's like YouTube videos on people eating and people watch people eating, right? All the time. Like literally eating is everything that people do. And for some people who actually have medical problems, sometimes feel like they can't tell their family at Christmas time or like at Thanksgiving that they can't eat. That they can't indulge in that food with their family together. Because they feel scared, like they're going to be that person that says, "Oh, my doctor told me my sugar is high or my cholesterol is high," and the salt intake. It makes them feel bad about themselves,
exactly.
and so
you don't want to be the one not participating,
right? You don't want to be that guy that's like, "Oh, I have diabetes and I can't eat the pie," And that's part of the conversation I have with my patients. It's like you're really bringing it down to the human level of like, look, I get it. I too love to eat. And so that's also like sort of like how I bring that to these appointments when we talk about food. They'll ask me like, what do you eat? And I'll tell them like, look, I've been through this process with you too.
Right.
And this is one of the main reasons why I decided that I wanted to learn about food through culinary medicine, because I wanted to help myself too. So this is where I began my journey. When I was a resident and I was training, I wasn't the healthiest eater when I was a resident doctor. I was eating.
Oh yeah, residents are the worst eaters.
Right. And we all know that because we're always busy. We're on the go. We don't sleep. And so like our bodies want things that we know that's not good, but we know it's not good. And so that's why I started this whole process with culinary medicine.
Yeah, I think it does become personal because you also start learning, a thing or two, and then you start reading and learning, and you want to teach people what you know, especially if they're not privy to this information. Like families and children, they have no idea. They come to you for information and for help.
And if you've never done it yourself, then you don't know how to give that advice to your patients. So, you asked me about the turmeric, understanding which flavors, like even cinnamon, understanding like how that helps somebody who's diabetic. It's like counterintuitive, for the first time telling someone who's diabetic, it's okay to take cinnamon, right? Like, and they're like, what? And then you're like, no, it's fine because it actually helps to lower your sugar. So I do talk about that so much because I just feel like spices and flavors are the things that we really need to focus on when we talk about food, because that's what people want. If they want food that tastes good, they don't want food that's bland. Having them understand that, like, yes, turmeric is good for, your bone pain. Don't take the pill, like take it in its natural form, so
cook it in your food.
Exactly.
It's anti-inflammatory.
If you can get the powder, or even the root itself is so much better.
And it's in the store. It's right there. People don't see it because they don't think about it.
They don't know what it is. They don't understand. But you also want to tell them, like, things are always good in moderation, so don't start overdosing on turmeric. And,
don't chew down the whole root.
Like, don't make everything with turmeric, And that's the relationship that I constantly have to sort of coach them about food. Is like, don't go to extreme. Like, I know you're highly motivated to eat better, but just don't consume this one thing all together all at once. That's human nature for people to want to just do things to the extreme.
What would you say to people in general, like if you had given them the website. Can you repeat the website for people to find?
Yeah, there's actually one website that I always recommend to my patients is to Google Dr. Gourmet. Dr. Tim Harlan was my mentor, and he was the head of the Golden Culinary Institute at Tulane, and his website has recipes and specific recipes for specific conditions like acid reflux diet, things like that, or anti-inflammatory diets.
Yeah, you can
So
really change your diet for these specific conditions.
Yeah, so that's a good resource, a website, Dr. Gourmet. It's got a lot of information on there, a lot of recipes. If you don't have a culinary medicine provider in your community, it's always just good to sort of talk to your primary care about maybe setting aside a visit just to talk about nutrition. If you feel like, you haven't gotten that help from like a nutritionist or a registered dietitian, reach out to your primary care, and they might know maybe somebody else
somebody
in a nearby community or city
that
does culinary med or integrative medicine. There are some integrative medicine physicians who are also really, really good with nutrition.
I know with pediatrics, definitely pediatricians have a lot of diet handouts, and healthychildren.org is always a good place specifically for kids. But if parents and kids are doing it together, that's the best way, because that's the kitchen, that's the house, and that's the whole environment. Yeah, nutrition and culinary medicine.
Yeah.
That's
the way of the future.
Yes, and it's always kind of been a part of us, but it's important to focus on now. So thanks for the information.
Of course.